Today on Locked On Red Wings, Scotty and I are going to further our who stays, who goes, this time focusing on defense and whether or not Marc Staal can get another year with the Detroit Red Wings. And also, we're going to talk about the ESPN E60 on the Red Wings-Avalanche rivalry and just kind of reminisce on why that's the best rivalry in hockey.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. I'm your host, Brian Fisher, 97.1 producer. He is also your host, Scotty Bentley, also host of Locked On Tigers and freelance journalist for the Detroit News. Scotty, how was your Memorial Day weekend? We took an extra day off, 2 weeks in a row. We took an extra day off, but we've kind of earned it.
We did earn it. I agree with you. We did earn it. No, it's wild. You texted me Sunday afternoon, and we're like, hey, like, what's the plan? Like, what do you want to talk about? And when are we going to record tonight and stuff? And I was like, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm like nowhere close to home.
I had no idea you were out of town either. Great communication by us.
Like, I'm nowhere close to home, and I'm not really sure when I'm going to be home either. I'm the very last second planned Memorial Day thing on my end, which is why why you didn't know about it, and the poor planning and quickness of it led to having no clue when it would end either. And we were just like, you know what, we still have another day that we could take if we wanted to. It's a long weekend anyway. Memorial Day weekend. Everybody's got an extra day off anyway. Well, what the hell? Why not?
What the hell? Why not? Before we go any further,
it was good though. I didn't even
absolutely
answer your question. It was a good weekend. How was yours?
Good, but before we go any further, I do have to say today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thanks for making Locked On Red Wings your first listen every single day. We are free and available on all platforms. My weekend was great. Actually, like probably one of the best weekends I've had in a long time, which is why when we suggested maybe just taking Monday off, I was like, you know what? Let's keep the good feelings rolling because Memorial Day, I also had off my full-time job. I ended up having a 4-day weekend. It was phenomenal. Friday, I got a lot of cleaning done, which is, and by cleaning, I mean like I vacuumed the carpet, but as you can see, the pile of laundry is still there. I never got around to folding the laundry. Saturday, I had my producer show at 97.1. First time I had actually ever been in the host's chair. I'd usually always been the co-host for the producer show.
Big dog.
But I drove, and I thought it went really well. I felt way more natural than I thought I was going to be. Like, clearly all the reps I'd been getting here with Locked On Red Wings had absolutely paid off. Sunday, I spent all day with Allison, and then Sunday, I spent all day with my roommates, my sister, and Allison. So it was an awesome
weekend. Sounds like a fun weekend.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. We played a lot of board games, and I don't play a lot of board games, but it was absolutely fun. We played Pandemic.
I am a board game fiend.
We played Pictionary.
That's a great one. Fantastic game.
I drew a diamond ring, and my sister could not guess diamond ring. I literally drew a circle with a diamond on top.
Yeah, I'm gonna side with not you.
What?
I'm gonna say that until I see a picture of you drawing a diamond, I can't vouch for you. I can't. It like if it's a circle with like just a like stupid little triangle on top, I'm gonna have to side with her, unfortunately.
Literally drew.
I hate doing that, but we can't really trust your drawing abilities.
I literally drew this.
Okay. Yeah.
It's pretty obvious. She said camera.
Yeah. You know what? I really wanted to just be like, nope, that's terrible. I don't side with you, but it's pretty much impossible not to. That's pretty clearly a diamond ring.
She didn't get diamond ring off that, so I drew a finger through it, which admittedly confused her more because now she's like, I have no idea what I'm looking at now because my finger was just like a long oblong shape with a fingernail on it.
Yeah,
like
I don't know if I would have gone. Yeah, I don't think that helps. It's a rocket ship now.
She didn't get it, and we lost the game because of that. And I was like, oh, my God. I chose – it was one of those ones where you land on it. You can choose whatever one you want, like whatever category. And I was like, I'll go with the easiest one. She's a woman. Diamond ring.
Naturally.
Did not get it. But you know what? It ended in like a lot of laughs. It ended up being hilarious because it was so
That's a great game for
frustratingly
that.
funny.
Great game for that.
On today's docket, though, let's get straight to business here. First segment here.
Straight to it.
Let's talk about straight to it. 5 minutes later. Let's talk about the E60. We saw the trailer.
Dude,
the
I'm so
2-hour long documentary that ESPN is going to come out covering the 1997 1997 to 2002, I believe it's going to cover the span of time where the Avalanche won 2 championships, the Red Wings won 3, and they're going to interview all the key players, or they already have, and it's interviewing all the key players from those games, those years, and it's going to be absolutely bone chilling. Like I'm so excited to hear what these players have to say decades later.
Yeah, no, it looks absolutely incredible. ESPN, love them or hate them, they make the hell out of a documentary.
Oh yeah,
let me tell you, 30 for 30, E60. They don't miss. They really don't. I love those documentaries more than it. They're so great, and I'm so pumped for it. The second that it came up on my timeline, I freaked out. I've been watching it like 3 times a day all weekend. Like I just can't stop watching it over and over again. The clips that they have in there, it does feel like rivalries just like aren't like that anymore.
No, hockey's not like that anymore.
Right, for sure. The physicality of the games are certainly not like that anymore. But really, across all sports, American sports, I should say, because soccer gets kind of crazy sometimes. But there's not really like those rivalries you solve of these two rosters hated each other. They hated each other on the ice, on the field, off, the ice or field, whatever. Like, they legitimately could not stand each other, and they didn't like them as people. They didn't like them. If they saw them at the grocery store, they wouldn't have liked them. Nonetheless, on the ice, like a lot of those in today's day and age feels like it's more like rivalry between fan bases, and the players are obviously all competitors and they want to win and they're going to get angry sometimes and whatever, but like rivalries like that, they
don't exist, man.
It doesn't feel like there's that 24/7 for 5 years. There's nobody, no human on the planet I hated more than the people that were on the Colorado Avalanche roster. Like that doesn't, like the Red Sox and Yankees had that at one point in the early 2000s. There's a few, but it just doesn't feel like that really exists anymore. And I cannot wait to relive it for 2 hours.
Well, and I'm really curious too. So I mean, for all intents and purposes, the rivalry's dead. I mean, it's been dead since the Red Wings moved to the Eastern Conference, which was early 2010s.
Also, there is no one on that team on either team that is even like, we're like 3 generations removed.
The closest thing we have is the general managers. I mean,
right.
And that's another thing that's astounding too, is what made this rivalry so special was not just, I mean, there's obviously the history behind it between Draper, Lemieux, all that. Everyone knows about the fights that broke out, fight night as they call it. But also the names of the players that were on those teams. I mean, Joe Sakic, number 19, Hall of Famer, was captain of the Colorado Avalanche, captained them to 2 Stanley Cups in that span. Hello, general manager, one of the best general managers in the NHL. His Colorado Avalanche team is one of the best. They're going to the Western Conference Final. You look at Detroit, number 19, the captain, 3 Stanley Cups. One of the best general managers in the NHL, built the Stanley Cup, back-to-back Stanley Cup champions in Tampa Bay, and is now trying to do the same thing with the team he played with. I mean, just the fact that it's the gift that keeps on giving. The fact that rivalry, decades later, is still spewing out, like, I don't know if like the right word to use here is, but it's almost as if it's the gift that keeps on giving. The fact that the players who played on these teams are still relevant in the league. I mean, obviously Patrick Wall was coach of the Colorado Avalanche for a couple years there. He's a Hall of Fame goaltender. You had Peter Forsberg. You had
We have
Brendan
like
Shanahan.
a third of that roster from us is like in the front office.
Yeah, Brendan Shanahan's the president of hockey ops for Toronto Maple Leafs. Chris Draper is the head of amateur scouting with the Detroit Red Wings. Chris Osgood is on the Bally Sports Detroit broadcast. So you got all these names are still very relevant. Like that's how dynamite these teams were, that these guys stuck around in the NHL in some capacity, either front office or broadcast role, because those teams are just made up of such great players and personalities, just smart athletes. It's going to be really exciting to see them relive that and us all relive that with them for 2 hours. And of course, getting to hear what Konstantinov can say.
Right. That's like the best part of the whole thing is that it ends, right? They put it at the end too. Like you watch the whole thing and you're like, oh, this looks sick. And at the very end, they ask Vladdy, they ask him, I think it's what was the best part of the rivalry? And he said, beat them.
It's just like you can still see like constant like Vladdy peeking through, and it's those moments that make it so special. And it does also hopefully bring attention to like the fact that the new Michigan law is bringing into jeopardy whether or not he can have his 24/7 help. So hopefully that can get shined a light on. They can figure something out for that because Vladdy is Vladdy's an icon.
The Red Wings community will certainly do everything that we can to shine some light on that because that's really a scary thing that was made public and put in the news cycle over the weekend too.
Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to it. It's gonna be at June, right? Early June, mid June,
something like that. I can't wait.
It's gonna be so good. Probably more exciting than the Stanley Cup final for Red Wings fans. Let's be honest.
I know it will be for me. What the hell? Yeah.
Close. Our partners at BetOnline continue to be the number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty and I are going to transition now into talking about who stays, who goes on the defensive core for the Detroit Red Wings. We did a little bit of the goalie core on Friday, where we talked about the two goalies who were unrestricted free agents. Again, this little mini series we're doing is only covering the players who are going to be free agents, restricted or otherwise. So anyone who's still signed through next season, we're not going to cover. And when we talk about defense, there are
cover them at some point in the offseason, I'm sure.
Yeah, but not in this mini series.
Yeah, this is just directly like, hey, these people are about to be a free agent. Do you keep them or not?
So there's 4 defensemen, 2 RFAs, 2 UFAs. I think we should just start with the most obvious one. Danny DeKeyser. Does he stay? Does he go?
You know what? I'm going to say I don't want to be like overly dramatic, but I think for his own sake, this should be retirement. We should retire. The Red Wings will have a nice little send off, even with everything. I know the fan base will probably be some snarky comments and whatever kind of send off or thank you thing they have for him, but he deserves it whether you like it or not. And we send him off, and it shouldn't be even like a oh, do we re-sign him or does he sign somewhere else? This should just be like let's hang him up.
Yeah, Danny DeKeyser just played out the final year of his 6-year, $5 million contract. All but $500,000 of that. No, I'm sorry. All but $3 million of that $30 million total contract was signing bonus. So the last 3 years, you paid him $5 million straight up every single year, which was really steep. A Ken Holland contract, and he loved his own players. I mean, he gave out a lot of $5 million per year, 5 years, 6 years.
Certainly
Nielsen, Helm, DeKeyser obviously did not age well. As back injuries piled up, resulting in surgery for DeKeyser. This past season, he only had 11 points in 59 games, no goals, 11 assists. And he wasn't really in any situation. Actually, correction. That's at 5-on-5. Let me double check on that one. That
No,
might
yeah,
be
I'm trying to remember. I feel like
no,
no,
nothing.
I was trying to think. You said it, and I was like, damn, like really? And I was
No
just trying to
goals.
think. I think you're right though. I remember like 2 assists that we were like, hey. There was the one that was it was off the pad.
Hit off the board too, didn't he?
And then he had one off the board as well. Yeah, those were the 2 that the 2 passes I remember that we were like, hey, and then we even debated if they were even intentional, but that's besides the point. It is, yeah. I was trying to think. I was like, man, I guess he didn't score. Yeah, I don't remember any. So
yeah, so I think at 32 years old, which is with the injuries he's gotten, I mean, I just don't see the Red Wings needing to re-sign him, especially considering they already have 5 defensemen under contract coming back next season. Let's find the right tab here. Phil Pronik, Jordan Osterley, Moritz Seider, Gustav Lindstrom, and of course the new addition is Steven Comfer. Comfer probably will play in the AHL, I imagine, but currently he is listed as on the Red Wings roster.
right.
So, I mean, those 5 guys are currently in the Red Wings roster. I mean, you got to imagine that there's better options at that age, like than Danny DeKeyser, and honestly, maybe even a few years older than that. And then again, this isn't Danny DeKeyser slander. It's nothing. I don't want to sound like a jerk, but it's just the reality of the situation.
No,
he has not been an NHL defenseman this past year.
Right, and it's just like it's not his fault, like you said. Like there's a lot of injuries in there, and the back surgery. He was never really the same after that.
Yeah.
Just take care of your health. You made plenty, right? You
$30 million,
right.
6 years.
You made plenty. You can just go and spend time with your family and call it a career. And again, even though the last couple of years were had some turmoil within the fan base, that doesn't take away from what he was pre-back surgery, which was a pretty damn good defenseman. So,
but we're both in agreement that probably moving on from him.
Yes, yeah.
Speaking of moving on, let's move on to our next candidate. Sound like a game show there. Olli Juolevi is a really interesting one. He was a waiver pickup partway through the season. I believe you got him from, was it Tampa or Florida? I think it was Florida. And he's 24 years old. He is an RFA, arbitration eligible RFA. And last season, he made $863,000. After performance bonuses, it was $1,900,000. So I don't imagine getting much more than that if he does stay. But the question being whether or not he stays or goes. I want him to stay, but I have a feeling just based on the usage that or lack thereof in his situation that they probably won't. His advanced metrics in his short stint with Detroit, he only played 8 games, but he led all defensemen in relative expected goals per 60. He averaged his expected goals for percentage for every 60 minutes was 1.8. So he literally was expected to provide 1 goal of offense, almost 2 goals of offense per 60 minutes. Granted, small sample size in 8 games, but he kept that production up across all 8 of those games. Every single game he played in, he was a positive asset. But just the fact that he only played in 8 games, despite how bad the defense was, would lead me to believe that the team's not that high on him, and he'll probably end up going.
Yeah, I think not to sound like a cop-out answer, but I think this kind of will depend on what offer is available to be matched, right? Like RFA, so they have the ability to match, what another team's offer, and they can, restricted free agency. So I think that might be more based on what the market is with him than it is anything of his own doing at this point. It might kind of be a little bit out of his control. But I think I share your sentiment, though. I think he's someone that I wouldn't mind having back. And, if somebody comes in and wants to pay him like $2.5 million a year, then you don't match it. But
I mean, this is a guy who was drafted 5th overall.
Right. Yeah. And if this is, if somebody offers him a deal that you are comfortable matching, I trust this front office enough that I would not be against it at all, assuming that the price that you're matching is relatively decent. So I'm not against it. I guess if I had to bet, I would say that he probably isn't a Red Wing next year.
Just based on the usage alone. And just
Yeah, just the usage and also I mean, we have a ton of cap. We have
35 million.
so much cap space. So like this free agency, like if we really wanted to just flip and clean house and bring in a whole new defensive unit, we could just off salary cap alone. Nonetheless, Edvinsson and people coming through the pipeline. So I would say that we probably have too many resources available to us this offseason to make him a priority, I guess is the way I'll word it.
Yeah, it's just a really weird situation where I know that he has a long injury history, which is why he's fallen out of favor with both Vancouver and the Panthers as to like why, he's been bounced around the league. But fifth overall, 6'2" defenseman. In his short stint, he looked good, but I can't. I want him back, but I just don't see him coming back based on how he was used. But again, what do you have to lose as a team with $35 million in cap space, and he's an arbitration eligible RFA? So what's he get, like $1 million? I mean, he's not like going to be a drain on the cap or the roster unless you plan on bringing over a lot of prospects next year. I don't know. It's a tough one, but I'm going to still say go. I'm going to stick with he's going. Another arbitration eligible UFA that the defense has is Jake Walman, one of the defensemen or the defenseman you got back in the Nicoletti trade. One of the players, Oscar Sundqvist being the other one. 26 years old with the Detroit Red Wings this past season. He had, in 19 games with the Red Wings, hit submit. He is a defenseman. I was on the wrong tab. He had 4 points, all of which assists. He showed flashes. I think that's a guy that they're going to bring back, to be honest. I mean, they had him play all 19 games just so he didn't become a G6 UFA. So they forced him to play all 19. Well, they probably didn't force him, but they had him play all 19 games specifically for the purpose that he did not become an unrestricted free agent. You wouldn't do that with a guy you're not planning on bringing back. So just for that reason alone, I think it's a really simple, they're bringing him back.
Yeah, completely agree. I don't even think it's too terribly much of a discussion. I think it's pretty safe to say that they'll bring him back.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely like a kind of a defensive liability. He's not very good in his own zone, but he shows flashes offensively where he's able to carry the puck up the ice and create a scoring chance. And I mean, just on that alone, I mean, that's something that this defensive core really doesn't have a whole lot of. I mean, Moritz Seider shows a little bit of shows an offensive upside, but a lot of the times that offensive upside is when the team's already established an offensive zone presence. Philip Hronek is supposed to be your guy who carries the puck up the ice, but he just hasn't been able to do it. So I'm okay with giving a guy like Jake Walman, who's what did I say, 24, 25, something along those lines, giving him another shot with the Detroit Red Wings. He's 26. He's 26 years old. So
yeah, and he's the one that you can bring back, and no matter what you do in free agency, he has a spot on the team. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like those are the guys that you need to hang on to and see what you have in. But yeah, the fact that if you go out and splurge and spend all 35 million cap all on defense, he still has a spot on the team versus spending zero. Like either way, he's gonna have some sort of role, and hopefully can be pretty effective at it. But yeah, I completely agree. I think that's a pretty easy one.
Yeah, just got to hope that if he can shore up in his own zone, he'll be an effective bottom pair defenseman, which is
he's still young, still has time to develop, and expectations aren't through. Not saying put him at top line, but just hold on to him on the roster. Yeah.
And again, like if it doesn't pan out and that he's like going to be some amazing player, like he's an RFA. Like he's not going to kill your cap. You're not signing him to 6 years by $5 million. He's not Dylan Larkin, right. So you're not really losing much if he doesn't pan out either. The final defenseman that we have to cover is probably the one that gonna be the most interesting to talk about. Alternate captain Marc Staal, 35 years old currently, And during the season, he had 3 goals and 13 assists. And this last season, he made a whopping, got to find it, $2 million. Dude, the way cap friendly set up like confuses me sometimes, where it breaks everything up by each contract. So I'm just trying to find out what he's making per year, and it's like this 1 year contract he was on is all the way at the bottom. I'm like, wait, where's the year? Where is it at? Okay, here we go. But yeah, he made $2 million this last year. What do you think, Scotty? What do you think they're going to land on Marc Staal?
I'm gonna say no. That's my initial reaction, and I not no as in impossible. It's definitely a conversation to have. And if they brought him back, I don't think I'd be upset. I think if you did bring him back, I'd want you to bring him back as like a third liner. I don't think with all the available resources, money, prospects, etc., that we have to our disposal, I don't think we should put ourselves in a situation where Marc Stahl's a second line D man on opening night this fall. But if you wanted to bring him back and make him a third line, left side or whatever, and he's a good offensive defenseman, was all year, maybe like second power play unit defenseman or something, I'm totally fine with that kind of a depth move. But I'm gonna lean no as a whole. Again, I think most of it just goes back to this defense was really bad.
Yeah.
And I'm just going through like who's guaranteed to come back, who's not guaranteed to come back. I don't think you can justify just bringing in the same like all but one the same defensive group. Like I don't think you can justify that. I don't think you can say, oh yeah, we're gonna bring back everyone but like 1 or 2 people maybe. Like it was terrible. And I think it's something that needs to be at the forefront of things addressed for the offseason. And again, I'm not against bringing him back on a small deal and putting him down there at the bottom line for defense pairing, but I don't think you should make bringing Marc Staal back a priority.
See, it is tough because I completely agree with you on everything that you said, but I'm also looking at like the fact that Marc Staal was the 3rd best defenseman relative to his teammates. He was a positive asset, just barely, but he was. And on a defensive core that bad at 35 years old,
right,
the fact that he was
to his teammates.
Yeah, relative to his teammates.
Terrible.
Relative to his horrible defensive teammates, he was
Correct.
a positive on the ice.
Sure.
So it's like, and that's not relative. Point. Like, that's not relative to just the defenseman. That's relative to all the players on the ice.
Sure. It wasn't a good team.
No, it wasn't.
And the defense was the worst part of it.
So it's just like, I mean, my bias might be leaking through here. And I just like really want Marc Staal on the Red Wings because I think he's
I'm
like what he brings to the locker room is important. But I also understand that when it comes to guys bringing things to the locker room, you can get a lot of people who can do that at the same time. So,
right.
I don't know.
And
it's a tough one.
The thing that I just keep going back to is there's no way that we're just walking into opening night with the same exact people on defense, top to bottom. Like
you're right.
Not happening. It's not. So we have to find some casualties somewhere. And I think an aging veteran that is a minus defensive defenseman is probably one of those.
Yeah, you've convinced me. He's going. That sucks. You're right, though. I think you're right.
I mean, like, again, I'll say it for a third time. I'm okay with him getting bottom line minutes if you want to give him the tiny little deal. That's fine,
your point that this team, the goals per game they gave up being one of the worst in the league, one of the worst all time. And you're right. They can't walk back in with the same defensive core, especially when you got 2 UFAs, both of which are in their 30s.
Make no moves. You can't even just make like one move. You can't even just make like 2 moves. You have to make. You have to come in with a like serious overhaul of who you have defensively. We're gonna lose Danny DeKeyser. We can't just bring back everybody that's not Danny DeKeyser and just run it back. So
you're right.
I think he's probably done.
So I think that of the 4 defensemen that are due for contracts, the only one that they keep around is probably Jake Walman. I think just to kind of wrap up our thoughts on it, due to lack of usage, you think that with Olli Joulevi at 24 years old, they're probably pointing to sending him down, maybe, or not sending him down, but releasing him, or maybe sending him He's signing him to a 2-way contract, something along those lines. I don't really know how the RFA contract negotiations work.
It's
But
a bracket style thing, and then on top of that, you can match any offer. So like it's yeah, the initial contract is complicated, but then after that, if there's nothing agreed upon, then it just comes down to what other people offer you.
well, they can just turn down signing him too, as well as just
Correct. Yeah,
let
they
him
can
go,
let him go,
which
obviously. Yeah.
is a possibility here. So Danny DeKeyser gone, Marc Staal gone, keep Jake Walman. So that would leave you, assuming Steven Comfer goes down to Grand Rapids at the start of next season, they'd give you Hronek, Osterley, Seider, Lindstrom, and Walman as 5 defensemen. A team which generally carries, 7 defensemen at a given time. So you have an opportunity to sign 2
You have
guys.
that with Edvinsson in the wing and with 35 million cap.
And
I'd say
Edvinsson's
that
probably going to come in. So you look to
right.
sign one more, somebody who can probably push Osterley to a healthy scratch role.
Right. We learned this year the hard way. You need depth at every position because when injuries happen, they happen.
So interesting. All right. I think that about does it.
I think that about that too.
So, any final thoughts, man?
I don't think so. We ball. I think that's all I got today.
We do ball. Thanks for making Locked On Red Wings your first listen every single day. Now make your second listen Locked On NHL. From first-round matchups to every Stanley Cup kiss, Locked On NHL covers the playoffs like no other. Hear the latest news and opinions from local experts every Monday through Friday. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Scotty and I will be back with you guys
BetOnline.
I forgot. You got me. I wasn't expecting it this time.
Keep you on your toes.
Keep me on my toes. Scotty and I will be back with you guys tomorrow. We'll probably cover the offense. There's 5 forwards to cover. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.